Good morning. Welcome to Ripples of Change, the podcast where inner self meets outer transformation. Good morning, Meg.
Good morning,
And
Abby. Thanks for having me.
absolutely, and welcome to our viewers. So, as change agents, our impact depends on how we show up, the self awareness we cultivate, the presence we bring to groups, and the ways we influence others all shape the change we hope to see. In this, in this podcast, we talk with guests about what it means to use ourselves as instruments of change and how their work brings healing and wholeness to people, relationships, and organizations. I'm Abby Yano, your host. As an executive coach and organizational consultant, I spent years honing my ability to lead with awareness and purpose. And I'm excited to explore these ideas with my guest, Meg McKeen. So, welcome, Meg.
Thank you, Abby, and thank you for the work you're doing. Thanks for making a conversation like this happen. It's neat to think of all the different ways you and I have connected over the years, and that it's culminating in this experience together. So thanks
Yes,
again for having me.
yes, absolutely. Nicely put, Meg.
Yeah.
So, just going to give a quick intro. So, building on her experience as an independent insurance agent, Meg founded Adjunct Advisors LLC to help people in the insurance field grow their skills in sales, leadership development, underwriting, and career advancement. She's also a digital nomad. And earlier this year, she turned the open road into a podcast tour in which she talked with women about world, working world as women. So, Meg, you help people find direction in their careers, and now you're literally following the open road, creating your own direction as you go. So, how has movement in all its forms shaped your sense of purpose and presence?
Oh my goodness, you're not missing a beat here getting started. Maybe it makes sense to rewind a little bit.
Sure.
In insurance, we talk about risk management, and we get kind of a bum rap out there in the world as being risk averse. And I would have described myself that way and still do in many ways. And when I think about who I was as a much younger woman, with less experience and less miles under my belt, if you will, I thought that my life was going to look a certain way. I thought that I would be married and have a family and have sort of all of the trappings of success, or at least what I thought success should look like or would look like for me. And I did get married. I don't have any children, but that marriage ended after about 8 years, and I really rediscovered who I was as an independent woman, as an independent thinker, as a party of one, as a family of one, I like to say. And the last maybe, I don't know, 15 years or so now have really been a lot of discovery, a lot of trial and error, a lot of two steps forward and one step back. And one of the things that I've learned, and I share this often, it's actually the wisdom of a guest of my podcast, Dr. Michelle Morkert, is that confidence isn't something we wake up one morning and realize we have. And so now we go do hard things. It's really something that we develop over time. And it's only after doing those hard things can we look back and say, oh man, that really took some guts in order to do or to achieve or accomplish. And so anybody who knows me, who's tuning in today, knows it's a mess over here. I kind of like it that way. I have done so many curious, interesting, uncharacteristic things in the last 15 years, and I'm going to keep going and see where that winding road takes me.
Lovely. Well, so thank you for unwinding or rewinding a little
Yeah.
bit and starting a little early. That's great. And it was a great sort of intro leading us into the conversation, and fascinating that you've done uncharacteristic things and sort of, I think, even challenged yourself to do things that were maybe beyond your comfort zone. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. As a lot of us do, I don't tend to like change. I don't like mystery. I don't like the unknown. And so I'll say one of the most uncharacteristic things came in 2017 when I made the decision to leave my last corporate role without another job lined up, without a plan, frankly. And that was just, I mean, the wisdom, the older, wiser folks around me, of course, would say, you never quit a job until you have a job. And certainly I was on a path, I was on a trajectory. I don't know where it would have taken me, but I know it would have led to more promotions and more money and more opportunity. And not because I'm that great, but because that was the path. And the path was pretty clear. If I just stayed, put my head down and sort of did my time, that would be rewarded. And so the first maybe hopping off of that path was that decision, that uncharacteristic decision to leave my job without a plan. I did have, a little bit of money socked away. I had bills I needed to pay, and I'm a one-woman show, so I needed to make sure I could feed myself. But it was a scary time. It was a beautiful time. It was a time of healing, of recovery. I was experiencing burnout, but didn't really know at that time that that's what that was. We weren't really talking about it the way we talk about it now. And more so a misalignment. I realized over time that what I consider to be and what others have validated for me, the best parts of me were not the parts that I was leveraging at
Mm.
work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we can do that for a certain amount of time, but there's a reckoning for a lot of us. And that's what I experienced in 2017. So I took about a year and I explored all sorts of interesting things that I might do professionally. And then ended up launching my consulting firm in July of 2018. And that's been my livelihood since, through all of its twists and turns.
Lovely. I think you used the word mystery earlier, right?
Yeah.
And so there's something that you enjoy if I heard you, you
Yeah.
enjoy the mystery, and you certainly stepped right into it.
I did.
And
I'm sorry, was there more to your question? Because I
well,
can.
I'm noticing that, you decided there's a misalignment. I'm going to create my own path here. And so I'm choosing not to listen to those people who were say, you're making a mistake,
Mhm.
which indicates some internal courage, I would say, and sort of being true to yourself.
Yeah.
And then I think you also you used the word, you described insurance as a risk averse industry, and here you were doing something totally taking a risk.
Yeah.
So how do you think about all of those things put together?
Well, I think, and I've said this a million times, my insurance career I've been kicking and screaming the whole way. I've
Mm.
been frustrated quietly. I've been frustrated in an outspoken way. I've been a pain in the you know what for a lot of leaders that had to deal with me. Always professional. I learned that, very early on is you will attract a much more favorable response if the hard message you can deliver is packaged in professionalism. And so I was always very thoughtful in that way. But I never saw myself as a career insurance professional. It was,
Right.
business in the traditional sense was not where I thought I would be. I assumed I'd be working in the social services, social sciences. I have a sociology degree. I thought maybe I would move into counseling or therapy. And I joke all the time, like, this is the closest I will ever get. And I
Right.
have to dance that line often in the work that I get to do now. But yeah, uh, it was very uncharacteristic leap. And I kind of lost my train of thought there because there's so many layers to this. But as someone who you use the word, or I use the word mystery, I wanted to know that everything was going to work out and everything's going to be okay. And while I still don't, I know that I'm I'm capable, I'm resourced. I have really interesting people around me who surround me and meet me in all of these places. And it's not always that way, but I do think the evidence is there if we look for it. And I think a lot of us are standing still when we know what forward momentum could look like and could feel like, but yet we're
Mm.
kind of rooted in one place for a lot of reasons. And we can get into that too. But
Right. Um, so I like that you use the word self-resource. You're resourced, which
Yeah.
is such a useful word to have. And it sounds like you have a deep faith in yourself and your ability to adapt and adapt, I want to say. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I think that comes from, I mean, experience, and mine is not unique, but it's mine, and so it's the lens that I see the world through. I mentioned previously that I was married. When my marriage ended, I had essentially moved from the college life into married life, and I had not really lived independently or on my own until I was 30. And so the idea for myself that I could make wise investment decisions, that I could make a real estate purchase, all of those things that sound so elementary, but to me they were a really big deal, and they brought and still do a huge source of pride personally that I could be the whole thing not come crashing down. And the more we do that, if confidence is a muscle, the more we use it, the stronger it gets. And so I also knew, thinking forward when I left my last corporate role, I knew that I was employable. I knew in the first couple years that if things didn't work out, that I probably could make a couple phone calls and
Mm,
somebody would take me in. And I did at different times. The pandemic was one of them. Things were really bleak in the trajectory of my business. I wasn't sure if I was going to have a business. And so I did make a couple calls confidentially and asked some friends and mentors and people that I really trusted in the business, what do you think is next for me? And I'm really proud again that I stayed the course. I'm proud that when the rubber met the road and I was asked to shut my business down, to dissolve the personal branding work I had done, that I decided not to, and that I really doubled down and kept going. And now 7 years later, it's working, but it's not been an easy path, needless to say. But yes, definitely trusting myself, knowing that I know better than anybody else what's
right,
right for me, and then being able to stand in that truth when all of the kind of negative Nellies, whether they're real or not. Because to be honest, I'm really good at making stuff up. I'm really good at jumping to conclusions and assuming that everyone's standing on the sidelines of my life, pointing and laughing and second guessing and judging. And of course they're not. They
right,
want happiness for me, even if it looks in an unconventional way. But it's hard. Those voices, that inner critic is strong and it comes from a real place. And so I've had to do some good internal work
right,
in order to heal some of those parts too.
right. So for the viewers, I don't know if the screen is, sometimes it's stopping on my side, that I'm not, there's a bit of lag. I don't know if you're experiencing this, Meg?
I'm not. No, our connection
Uh-huh.
seems to be good on my end.
Okay, so just for the viewers to know, we're here, and you might be seeing the lag, but it does come back. There was so much in what you just said, and just wonder whether we could unpack some of that.
Of
I
course.
want to honor those things that I don't think they're elementary at all.
Mm,
Being able to make a wise investment, making a decision against others' counsel, um, trusting your own judgment, being able to make a real estate transaction. For me, those are really those require a great deal of confidence and backing even. So I just want to honor the fact that I don't think of those as elementary, right?
thank you. Yeah, you're right. They're not. It's just things a lot of us have done. And so it doesn't
Right,
feels more like checking a box maybe than being a monumental life moment, but it sure felt that way for me in that moment.
abs-
So thank you
abs-
for that.
absolutely. And then something you said about people who might be comfortable in their lives or think that they know the path they're going down. Certainly, insurance people know the path they're going down, and then sort of stepping out on a limb or over a cliff, actually, when you do something unexpected. you had told me previously that you think that the work that you're doing is a way of modeling what we're all going to need to do in the future economy, in the changing business world that we live in. So, and I think you're embodying that. Can you speak to that piece?
Yeah, for sure. And I think this jumps us forward to present tense, which is my choice to live nomadically and to be unrooted, if you will,
Right.
and not have a home base. And I think I don't know any, if many, other insurance professionals that are living the way that I am. And I think, I mean, I know I do a lot of work now around generational change and with 5 generations working in insurance right now and in our economy, and another generation ready to go, we have to think differently about the place that work fits in our life.
Right.
And for the longest time, I was, an 8 to 5er. I was getting up at 5 a.m. in order to go to the gym, in order to come back and shower and to get on the train and to be at my desk by 8 a.m. And I was working till 5:36 because there's always something else to do, coming home, slamming dinner, maybe having an hour or 2 of Meg time, and then going to bed and doing it all over again. And that's very common. It's how our industry was created. It's the way it sustained itself, is having people who are willing to work those hours. And I know a lot of people listening are currently on a break because they are working those hours. And so they're squeezing this time in with us. I knew, and there's some privilege here when I make this statement, that for me, that was not sustainable. Working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week was not sustainable for my nervous system. There were many, many days that I was showing up, phoning it in. I was a cog in a wheel. I was staring at a computer screen, moving a mouse to make it look like I was doing work done, but I was exhausted and my mind was elsewhere, my heart was elsewhere, my thoughts and my feelings were elsewhere, and I was
Mm-hmm.
totally disengaged. And so one of the things that I've really learned in living and working the way that I do is I work hard when I need to. And when I don't, I don't. I
Mm-hmm.
don't find things to keep me busy to give the appearance that I am
Mm-hmm.
doing something. And so I will have full days on my calendar that I'm not working. And I'll tell you, the first couple years, it was hard because I felt a massive amount of guilt, or that I was doing something wrong, or that
Right.
somebody was going to figure it out, that I wasn't working, quote unquote, as hard as everybody else. And what I realized is the kinds of work that I get to do that really lights me up requires me to be on in a massive way. I'm speaking at conferences, and it's not just the 90 minutes that I'm delivering a keynote or a workshop. It's arriving at the event, it's the socializing, it's the being available for the conference organizers, it's mingling with attendees, it's helping to create an experience. I might work 40 hours in one day based on the energy that I'm expending. And
Right.
so I also have learned to build in time for rest and recovery. And so the day after I travel back from an event like that, I'm not on Zoom. I don't take calls. I don't schedule meetings because I know that I need a certain amount of time to really regulate my nervous system again. I couldn't find that in the traditional corporate world. In fairness to corporate America, I wasn't really looking for it then
Mm-hmm.
either. I wasn't doing the kinds of things that I'm doing now in the corporate world. And so I didn't really push the envelope maybe in ways that I could have while I was traditionally employed. But it has been one of the most beautiful discoveries for me, is that work can look very different and work can fit in your life versus your life being shaped around
Right.
your 9 to 5. And for
Right.
me, I've really embraced that. And it's really cool to be able to go and have the experiences and adventures that I'm having and also make a good living and have impact. It's possible. So,
Yes. Well, bravo to that. Bravo to your courage, your steadfastness, and your ongoing belief that you can make it happen. And it's inspiring to hear, and must be inspiring for some of our viewers who are listening to this and thinking, wow, maybe it is possible. Maybe I can follow my heart. and you are managing to craft a practice, a livelihood based on your own conception of, okay, what will it look like for me to be giving of myself to the world, creating that livelihood, right?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, Meg, you have said in one of your posts that it's the learning that I didn't see coming about myself
Yeah.
and how I relate to the world around me that makes settling down again appealing. And that's such
Hmm.
a powerful insight, that the learning that you didn't see coming
Yeah.
is keeping you in motion. So can you share what you've been learning about yourself in this process?
Yeah. I love it. Like I didn't know. I sold my house and all my stuff in the pandemic. I did not know. I thought maybe I would travel for 6 months and then I would have some sort of an epiphany or an awakening and the world would say, "You need to go be in this place." And I have now, I have 2 states left. I've been to Hawaii in my lifetime, but not since I've been traveling, and Alaska are the last 2 states that I have to spend any meaningful time in. And when I say meaningful time, my travels in the last 5 years have put me in all of the continental United States for more than a drive-through or a quick overnight. And so I think as a country, um, where we are, the divisiveness, the division, all of it, to be able to say, "I've been to certain places and I've spent meaningful time," has made me feel more of a connection to my fellow citizens, to our country, to our history. Each state within each state, each community is different. I certainly haven't seen them all. I haven't experienced them all, but to be a visitor in someone else's town is truly a gift. To be able to see the world through their eyes and their lens like a local is a really cool human experience. And so I have collected so many. I mean, I love coffee shops. So going to a local coffee shop in the little downtown is one of my most favorite things. And I always chat up the barista. Are you from here? What do you love about this area? What should I not miss? I don't want the thing that's, number one on TripAdvisor, but what's your favorite little off the beaten? Give me a consignment shop. Give me a an apple orchard. Pumpkin
Oh,
patches are really
yes.
popular right now.
Yes.
Like what is the thing? And it's created just these really, really cool connection points with people all over the country. And I shared this in that same post that you just quoted, but people are kind. People want to help. I shouldn't be so surprised, but I am always surprised when I raise my hand and I ask for help with something, whether it's just recently I'm in Maine right now, but I was in New Hampshire in an Airbnb and I love to cook. And part of it is an economy thing. I travel full time, but I don't eat all my meals out full time.
Right.
That would cost an arm and a leg. And so I was making something for dinner and I needed a can opener. And this little apartment that was connected to a house didn't have a can opener. And so I messaged my host and asked, could I borrow a can opener? And she said, "Oh, sure, I'll drop it right off." And there was a version of me maybe 10 years ago that would have gotten in the car and driven to Target and bought a can opener so that I can open my can of beans. And the truth is, it was of no consequence to her to loan me a can opener. And then she ended up buying one because I think she realized, like, we should have a can opener. I have a million of those stories where, I'm going to a formal event. I don't own a formal gown anymore. And so I reach out to a girlfriend of mine who's about the same size
Right.
that I am. "Do you have a dress hanging in your closet?" "Oh my gosh, I've got a dozen and I would love for you to wear one of them because I feel guilty that they're hanging there and
Mm.
they're not getting
Mhm.
used." So many examples of that. So many examples. And so it's really helped me to, I talk in my work about the human experience. It's helped me to connect with the human experience in the world, and around me, not just professionally, but living this way um, it's just given me a perspective and a vantage point that I think a lot of us would be better if we had, frankly. At the same time, I often hear, I'm kind of switching gears on you, but here are all the reasons, Meg, why I can't live the way that you live. I get it. I don't have children. I don't know how I would educate children if I was living this way. I am partnered. We have a non-traditional relationship. We are committed to each other, but we don't intend to live together. And so we're often traveling in tandem or separately. And then we find ways to connect when we're along the way. And all of this is the culmination of the choices I've made and the cards that I've played that have put me here and given me the ability to do this. But more and more, whether it's people at the end of their career that are imagining retirement, or early career folks who are saying, you know what, I don't think I want to have one job for the next 50
Right.
years. I think I want to try different things, and maybe I do want to travel. Or it's somebody like me who finds herself in her 40s. I'm 47 now, but wait a second, life didn't go the way that I thought life was going to go. Does that mean I have to stay on the path that I thought that I was on, or could I
Right.
perhaps create a new path? And so there's all sorts of different reasons why someone might be attracted to a lifestyle like this, but when you ask about the learning, the unexpected lessons, less is more. I own one pair of jeans. Anybody who's ever been with me on Zoom has seen me in a black t-shirt because I own two of them, either short sleeve or long sleeve. And it just makes life a lot simpler. And I really thrive with that simplicity.
Mhm. What stands out again, just in a continuing thread, is the courage that you have to live this life. And it's unconventional. You've made your own choices. And the other thing that stands out for me is how much you enjoy this life and making connections with people, and this idea about seeing people in the small towns that you wouldn't have otherwise met. And that there's actually, seeing as you studied sociology, sort of an interest, as you said, in the human experience, how people are living around this country. Um, and your concern about the divide among different people, which is really quite profound, that that's something you're taking away from this journey you're on.
Yeah, very unexpected. I did not expect that. I am from Chicago. It was the city of. I lived on the north side in an old vintage condo that I sold in order to begin my travels, and I loved my Chicago chapter. I loved it, and I still have such fond memories, but I also know my travels have revealed to me that I am not a big city gal
Mm-hmm.
anymore. I go back to Chicago and my heart rate increases and my spidey senses go up, and it's a noisy city. It's a beautiful city. It's loud. It's chaos. You have to be looking around constantly for bikes and scooters and cars and cabs and buses, and I loved it and I thrived in it during that chapter. But now that I've spent time in what I call the little big cities out there in our country, where they still have strong a cultural footprint. You can still get a ticket to the theater. You can still go see a concert. You can still go walk the downtown. And people will stop and chit chat with you, or they will pause and want to hear your story. And it's not that that's not true in big cities. I just realize in this season of my life, I find myself craving that more so than the hustle and the bustle. And I think the lesson there is that there is a seasonality to
Yes.
many of our
Yes.
lives, and what worked for us
Right.
once may work forever, or it may not. And are you open? You keep calling me out for having courage. It doesn't feel that
Mm.
way
Tell
to
me.
me. It feels like hmm, almost a sense of, well, why wouldn't I?
Mm-hmm.
If I have the self-awareness, if I know what I need and I have the means to provide for myself what I need, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I start to travel if life in Chicago was starting to feel very one note? I also knew strategically it would lead to business opportunities, and it certainly has. If I can go be in the community with the business owners I want to meet, why wouldn't I go do that? And so I think that we're allowed to evolve. If somebody's looking for permission, this is it,
Right.
right? Like you don't have to stay in one place because that's the place that you've always been. And in that same post that you were quoting, If you're curious, there's a reason. There's a reason that curiosity is sitting in your belly or in your back or in your brain or your heart or wherever it
Right.
manifests for each of us. And it's worth exploring. Sabbaticals are something I've become wildly fascinated
Mhm.
by. I joke mine was not paid.
Right.
I'm coming for 3 months, I'm going to step away, or for six
Right.
months or a year. We're never the same person when we come back. We think we're going to step right back into the roles and the relationships and the behaviors, and that experience changes us.
Yeah. That reminds me of the quote, you can't step into the same river twice.
Yes.
And this idea that we are continuing to evolve. So even if one had a career in insurance with a clear path ahead, that's not to say that one doesn't continue to evolve. And as you said, there are seasons in our lives. The word that I think you said the word chapter,
Mm.
and I sort of glommed onto that because there's a quote about you won't necessarily know the title of the chapter you're in until afterwards.
Ooh, I love that.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Right. So we sort of, we don't know what it's going to be, but we're curious, we're open. If we have the privilege and the ability to do this,
Hmm.
how wonderful.
Yep.
And so the fact that you gave yourself permission, which many of us don't do, many people don't.
Yeah.
And then there's often regret because we don't do that. And the thing you said, which I found very interesting, about you were strategic and you realized that there would be, ended up being business opportunities wherever you went. And I'm guessing that emerged, but you still had a strategic framework about what was possible. Is that right?
Um, I mean, yes and no. It's funny. I just got off a call before this one with you, or before our session, and I think I'm supposed to say I have a plan over here, and I do. I mean, I need to work. I need to do some business development. I need to do the things I'm doing, but I don't necessarily know where it's going. And I
Right.
think there's a lot of pressure when you're a new business owner to have all of those answers, and that when you finally have the courage to use your word, to hit the button and let the world know what it is you're doing, that has to be the thing that you then do over and over and over again until you're quote unquote successful. And the first thing I launched in my business was a total flop. Like, I won't even call it a failure, because I just tried something and it didn't work, and I pivoted. And even looking back, I didn't give it enough time. I didn't do any promotion. I didn't, like, there were so many reasons that I got in my own way, and there've been a million of those since then. So many things that I've daydreamt about, and I've strategized, and I'm going to try this, and you don't really know. I've become really skeptical of, the 5-step systems to grow your business, or to do anything overnight, because the system is one thing, but what about the days when your confidence is in the gutter? What about the days that, I'm 47, I'm in the throes of perimenopause? What about the mornings I wake up and I didn't sleep the night
Right.
before? I'm not feeling creative on those days. What about the days that I just don't want to? Like, there are days when I am an ornery teenager in my business and I know what I need to do, but I sit there with my arms crossed and I'm like, I'm just not doing it. We are humans. I say this all the time. We are humans having a human experience. And if we try to cut the humanity out of what we're doing, we're never going to get there. And so I have had seasons in my business where I have not done, quote unquote, the things I should have done in order to move the needle. And have I paid the price? Maybe, but it wasn't in alignment. There have been times when I was really resisting, not because something was new, but because it was just not in alignment
Right.
for me. It was not how I wanted to be showing up in this business I was creating. And so um, I think rather than having a plan, it's more of that self-knowing and that self-trust that the business will continue to evolve as I evolve. And I want it to. I want to continue to express who I am in this world through my work in the ways that are meaningful to me as they manifest. And I don't always know what those are going to be. So,
Yes, lovely. So I love that you're uh, bringing attention to the human experience. I also love that you're talking about menopause, which is something we don't talk about. We
yeah.
shouldn't talk about in the business world, and we need to because it is women's experience and it does have impact on their ability to show up in the world. It doesn't mean that they can't be productive.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean, folks, you shouldn't hire them because they're going to go through menopause, but rather, how do we help people go through that in order to enable them to be productive on the job? So I really appreciate your bringing that forward.
Yeah.
The other thing I loved was your sharing about the flop, and I'd like us to use the word experiment because
Okay.
you were doing an experiment and it didn't have the results you were hoping for, and then you collect the data and you feed that back into this. This is what we ask companies to do,
Yeah.
which is to conduct an experiment, see what the results are, and adjust accordingly. And then we're not obliged to share with the world all of the experiments or all of the flops that we did. They
Yeah.
don't need to know about it.
Or sometimes they do. I mean, I learned very early on, and I think this still holds true. We're live on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, I have a very love-hate relationship with social media these days. I don't like what's in my feed. I don't
Mm,
it's very formulaic, it's very
yeah.
bland, it's very performative, and it feels I think AI has a lot to do with that, but it's lost some of the vulnerability, the authenticity. Those are the things that I've been doing from day one on LinkedIn. And it's why the people that I connect with, we've been able to develop these really beautiful, rich relationships that go beyond a comment or a like or a post on a page. And I want to get back to that
Mhm.
selfishly. And so if everybody else is going one way, I'm going to go the other and see what happens because I express myself through my writing and through our collective humanity, and I just refuse to water that down. So, yes.
So I love that. I'm gonna go the other way. So
Great.
I'm guessing that you're a rebel at heart. No?
Funny that you'd say that. I mean, maybe by if you looked on the outside, but there's a lot that goes on the inside in order to get there. I am not immune to the things that I talk about. I get lots of self-doubty, lots
Right.
of Monday morning quarterbacking, lots
Yep.
of ruminating. I have all that. And so what might look like a clear-cut decision or expression of myself on the outside often comes with a lot of turmoil and strife and angst on the inside. So I think I was always like the good kid who never got caught for doing bad things because no one would believe that I would do it.
Mhm.
So it's similar in my business. I'm certainly doing some things and ruffling some feathers and
Yeah.
over here, but I'm always doing it in a way that I hope is professional and is respectful of the people
Yes.
around me. And
So
but yeah,
yeah. So we saw the dog wake up. Uh, Hi, doggy. Um, so let me refine my use of that word.
yeah,
There's some. So what I heard was taking some. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was taking some pleasure in your ability to go a different way than the conventional, because that resonated for me because I am a rebel at heart. You might not know it,
hmm,
um, but to refine that language, I think it is the idea that I'm not going to follow the conventional path just because other people tell me that I
yeah,
should. It's getting back to being true to myself.
yep.
And that's what's important to me, and it sounds like to you.
Yeah, if that's the definition of a rebel, absolutely.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah.
It's
So, yeah. So, can
yeah.
I take this forward and ask you, Meg, where did you learn your own agency? Because this is a podcast about use of self, how we use ourselves as instruments of
Mm.
change. So, how did you get a sense of yourself as someone who could make change in the world?
Oh gosh, I think there's layers to that. I think I got tired of other people making decisions for me when I knew that I had all the information I needed already to know what was right for me. And that could be in, old familial relationships, romantic relationships, but professionally too, knowing that I was ready for the next move in my corporate career, but having to wait because I wasn't, the timing wasn't right or the budget wasn't there or somebody else was ahead of me in line. I think those were always really frustrating moments, kind of um, reconciliations for me to kind of build that muscle, if you will. And then, in my business, I wasn't, I'm not working anymore. I serve corporate America, which is where the through someone else's megaphone. I get to do it myself. I get to say what I mean. And I think the more you do that, the more you practice that, and of course, start to see some results from that, the more inspired we are to keep going, I think. And so I can't shortcut anyone else's journey. I don't have the magic formula. But are you willing to sit with yourself in those uncomfortable moments? Are you willing to quiet the noise around you? Are you willing to take one small step that's maybe left of center or not what would be characteristic of you? Are you willing to upset people? Are you willing to confuse people?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be quit your job without a job. It doesn't have to be sell your home and travel the world. It can be, you know what? I'm not making dinner tonight. I'm not doing your laundry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not showing up for that 7 a.m. sales meeting on Monday morning when I've got 2 kiddos that need to get to school and a whole household to run. I mean, it's boundaries.
Right.
I had terrible boundaries, but
Mm-hmm.
they've certainly gotten better and I'm still working on it. And I think change doesn't have to be radical. It doesn't have to happen all at once and it doesn't have to be forever.
Exactly.
And I think the perfectionists out there will hear this and think, yeah, but if I don't have all the answers and I don't know it's not going to work, then I'm not gonna take the chance. And um, to bring it kind of around and to quote, I wish she was my dear friend Brene Brown, but the good stuff happens in the messy middle. And I have thrived there, and I continue to put myself there because I love it there. And the best parts of my life have come from being okay with the discomfort and the unknown.
Right.
So
Um, I was just I was just writing because you mentioned building the muscle, and I
yeah,
think that is what we're all doing. I think we're all doing this, which is building the muscle to sit in the discomfort and the not knowing and
yeah,
having trust. And that can be that is difficult. It can be difficult, and it is a matter of how much trust we have
yeah,
in ourselves. It might also be a matter of how much support we have.
yes.
I mean, people are in different financial circumstances, and so and there is a privilege to be able to do this piece, which you've already said.
Absolutely, and I have to honor that. I try to make sure I mention that in
Yeah, you
every
did.
single conversation we have about some of these quirky lifestyle choices because it is not possible, for everyone, and it may not be possible for me forever. It's the moment of time that I'm in
Right.
right now, and I'm choosing to say yes to these.
Yes, that should be the title of your book, Choosing to Say
No
Yes.
book, Abby. There will not be a book. I get
There
that
won't be a
question all
book.
the time, and I think my mom would read it, and I don't know that anybody else would read it. And I'll continue to share on LinkedIn and maybe
Okay.
resurrect my newsletter and the
Okay.
different ways I'm showing up. But yes, I appreciate the sentiment and definitely have been, heavily influenced by a lot of people around me that have gone first and have
Good.
shown me what's possible. And you know,
Good.
the world is expansive and beautiful and massive, and I'm gonna keep
Yes.
exploring it.
I didn't mean to impose that on you. I was liking the title. So it should be the title of somebody's book, Choosing to Say Yes.
Yes, absolutely, I support
Yes.
that. I will buy that book.
There
Yeah,
we go. There we go.
I
So,
love it.
lastly, Meg, can you talk about in what ways your work brings healing and wholeness to people, relationships, and organizations?
Oh my gosh. One of the things, if I can be bold, and in full disclosure, I have a dog that needs to go out here behind me. I'm dog sitting right now. Um, one of my gifts, probably my greatest gift, if I can say this, is to make large spaces feel small. And whether that's a conference stage or a workshop that I'm facilitating, or even a webinar or a podcast or something, it's really to draw people in and to see themselves in the words that I share and the stories that I share. And so I think it's, in a sense, it's going first, but it's also holding that space in order to do the kinds of discovery and to lean into the curiosity that we're talking about here. And so I'm very, very careful in the advice giving column. I don't have the answers. I don't know your story. I don't know what your limitations are. I don't know if they're excuses. And frankly, that doesn't matter to me. But what I want to do is to make sure that, to the extent that we are able, we're giving ourselves that permission to really think and to daydream and to start maybe making some plans if that's what feels right for us in those moments. And so um, everybody's got a slightly different approach, and mine is to go first in some ways, to say the hard thing out loud, to say the quiet part out loud, as they say, to use myself as my own case study, as my own science project, if you will, and to be okay that that might expose some of my own vulnerabilities
Mhm.
along the way. But I don't know, we are beautiful, messy humans, and I just love to be in conversation with anybody who's on their journey, who's doing their work and is figuring it out just like I am.
Well, I think you have made this conversation a small space, an intimate space. Thank you for everything you've shared, Meg.
Thank you, Abby.
For people who want to find you, how can they find you?
Yeah, let's hang out here on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. I'm here as a speaker, I think, in the event page, and I share maybe once a week, every couple of weeks, something personal about what's going on in my life and my business. And my website, adjunctadvisors.com, is also a good place if you want to see how we can work together and support each other along the way. There's all sorts of things brewing over there. So
Very nice. And
thank you.
what's the next state you're going to?
I'm going to be in Maine here for the rest of the year, bopping around. And I don't know after that. I've got some ideas, but nothing's been set in stone yet. So probably hanging out in the Northeast. I've kind of fallen in love with New England. So we'll see.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well,
Yeah.
Meg, it's been awfully fun talking with you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing your time with us.
Abby, thank you. And thanks to all the listeners out there for hanging out with us for a bit today.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Oh,
everybody. Have a good
thank
day.
you.
Bye-bye. I'm looking for the end button. I don't see the button to end.